All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashu Roy. I'm the CEO of eGain, and thank you for joining us for this session where we will talk about a topic so long that it'll take a while for you to understand it. I'm just kidding. What we're going to talk about is something which I believe is very near and dear to all of your hearts, and we'll talk about customer engagement in a digital world. And along with me and following me after I do my 20 minutes is Bill Miller, sitting right here. He's the vice president at CompuCom, a BPO organization that's a client of eGain's, and they have implemented eGain and are on a journey with us as they try to serve their customers in a digital world. So we look forward to hearing from you, Bill. And of course, we'll have about 5 minutes available for Q&A at the end if you have questions, and love to talk to you both during the session as well as afterward. So let me get into what my premise is. I don't think any one of you would disagree with this statement that digital transformation in customer engagement is important. How important is it is the question. McKinsey says that 75% of all S&P 500 companies will not be incumbents 12 years from now. That's how important it is. Digitization is going to create a whole new set of winners. So it's not just a matter of doing well. It's not just a matter of competing better. It's a matter of survival for your CEOs, for your board, for your shareholders. And what we find with our customers as we help them in customer engagement solutions is that we keep getting these questions around digital transformation. And the questions are not just about feature and functionality. It's not just about scalability and reliability. It's about how do we start the project, which priorities do we go after first, what channels do we deploy first, what is the most effective way for us to measure progress in digital engagement? How do we align with the company's strategy? How do we decide what to do next? And so all these questions underlie a deeper question, which is the challenges around operationalizing strategy. And when I talk to CXOs and CIOs and heads of digital transformation in organizations, what I find is that they have a very clear sense of what the company's strategy is. Very clear, no doubt about it. I'll give you an example. This is a company that we work with. It's a healthcare insurance company in North America. When I spoke to the CIO, he was very clear about two objectives that the business has. Number one, member growth. Number two, margin growth. Simple. At the board level, at the CEO level, at the CXO level, well established. So now how do you make it happen in a digital world? Well, then he drew out, of course, this is a clean version. It was a whole diagram on the whiteboard across two whiteboards. But when we narrowed all of it down, it came down to the fact that you have different layers of detail that you have to unravel. It's like peeling the onion. And so starting with member growth, then you look at different customer journeys that impact member growth. When you look at margin improvement, you look at different activities and actions that members are performing. Then you look at the impact areas on your service organizations across the entire business. And you look at proactive service all the way through effectiveness and efficiency of agents through self-service, and then different relevant metrics that get impacted by those service areas. In other words, if you want to bring digital transformation or digital engagement into an organization like this insurance company, you have to be able to look at all these pieces in a holistic way. You cannot just pick one metric. You cannot just pick one impact area and focus on that with a point solution. Because if you do that, then you miss the forest for the trees. And we see that a lot. In fact, of all the visitors we've had this early afternoon at our booth, most of you, perhaps, and others who visited, the number one thing I was talking to my team saying, what are people looking for? And they said unifying all these different digital initiatives they have is the primary thing people are asking for. And the number two thing they're asking for is there a way to create a common knowledge management infrastructure that can serve all these digital channels? And I thought, wow, that's like reflecting our own solution story back to us. And that, to us, is the big need of the hour. Again, very apropos, because just before me, the presentation you saw was around bimodal IT. And I think you heard a lot about it if you did attend that event and that presentation. I'll put it in a very simple way. It's about being a hare and a tortoise at the same time, right? That's what bimodal IT is. On the one hand, you need to have stability, reliability, and therefore sure-footed execution that's slow, solid. You cannot break it. On the other hand, you need to be in a sandbox where you're innovating very quickly, you're failing fast, and you're bringing innovation in a DevOps model to your customers. And the CIO and the people you are leading, the teams you're leading in your organizations, have to have the ability to hold those two competing approaches in the same organization. That's bimodal IT. That's not enough, though. We contend that that's very critical and important, but in addition to that, what you need is a technology platform that someone like eGain, and we believe we are a very strong supplier of that capability, is a platform that is broad so that it covers all the digital capabilities of customer engagement, and deep with out-of-the-box product capabilities. Having out-of-the-box product capabilities is critical. And I'll tell you why. Because we have seen at least half a dozen companies in the last couple of years who are now our clients who went in and tried to build solutions with APIs and toolboxes. And while you can build exactly the kind of car you want, it just takes too long to get the car built. And the rate at which the digital market is moving, you cannot be working on 3-year or 4-year project cycles. You have to work on monthly project cycles. And so having out-of-the-box rich capabilities that you can combine in interesting ways is very important. And the last piece of the puzzle, in our opinion, is the fact that the organization that is working with you, in this case, let's say eGain, should have the best practice know-how of having done this for a period of time so that we can give you not just the tools, but also the best practice deployment of those tools. And you'll hear that from Bill. Which means that you should be able to make fewer mistakes to get to a best practice level. If you make too many mistakes trying to catch up, you're never going to get to the front of the queue. And so we believe that a solution like eGain's, which is a customer engagement hub, that offers you a digital-first engagement model across mobile, social, web, and yes, contact center, at the same time has a knowledge management capability that allows all your stakeholders, whether they are end customers or your agents, to be able to execute your instructions without the challenge of domain context and know-how. That, to me, is one of the big things that a lot of digital transformation initiatives struggle with, is you put all these tools in place, but you still have islands of context and domain knowledge, which means that when you want to move quickly and change direction, you want to service a new customer segment, or you want to respond to a new marketing campaign with your service organization, you just cannot do it because you don't have the team trained up. Training, in other words, is a slowing down of your digital business. What you want is the business should be able to respond in an agile way to the needs of the market and the customer without the inertia of context and domain knowledge. So knowledge management as a layer of capability is critical to that customer engagement solution. And the last thing is personalizing the interaction, which we are all aware of, but I'll bring up something which I think is a missing piece in the typical solutions that companies seem to organize around. So let's talk about the three things. First is digital engagement. Second is knowledge management. And the third is personalization using analytics. With digital engagement, and I'll give you an example of a customer. Of course, Bill will talk more about his piece as well. But another customer where you'll see how easy it is to deploy digital engagement across different touch points. And one of the things we have learned over the last couple of years as we have done this, continue to innovate, is that it's not enough to do just the basics. You have to be able to bring new capabilities in to differentiate the experience for your customers. That's vital. So things like proactive offers, things like video chat, things like co-browsing with customers where you can handhold them on an interaction. Those are the things that create the wow effect. And so in addition to being quick, you also need to be differentiated. The second piece I talked about, which is knowledge. And with knowledge, we see 6 attributes that are important for an effective knowledge management capability within the hub. So the first thing is it needs to be a guided knowledge interaction. It cannot just be a search-oriented solution. Search is great when you're looking for a florist or you're looking for a dry cleaner or you're looking for a solution where many answers will suffice. When someone is reaching out to you as a business and asking you a specific question or looking to solve a problem or getting advice, giving them 20 options is not good enough. Knowledge systems have to have guidance in them so that you can get to the single best answer each time, regardless of who the operator is, whether it's self-service or whether it is agent-assisted. Proactive knowledge just ensures that your customers are getting the answers as quickly as possible in the context of their journey, as opposed to having to reach out and wait. Personalization, we talked about. Federation is vital because knowledge management solutions just cannot be islands in their own self. You have to connect into other content systems. And so federation and bringing all that into a single experience for the users is critical. And then finally, the social bit we are all aware of. Crowdsourcing of knowledge is something that we all realize the value of because as a business, you're constantly trading off between recency and relevance. And social knowledge allows the organization to source recent know-how, even at the expense and a trade-off of relevance or accuracy. And so you need to be able to bring both those together, curated knowledge as well as social knowledge. And finally, measurement that we're all aware of. So these are the attributes within the customer engagement hub that a knowledge system should have. And the third piece we talked about was journey analytics, or how do you personalize the interaction. Now, here I want to bring up one key point. There are lots of analytic capabilities out there. In fact, when we were talking to this CIO at the health insurance company I've talked about, his first comment was, I have lots of analytics tools. So what's he going to do differently? And our response was, yes, you're right. But the folks who have the analytic capability in your organization and the folks who are operating your systems on the other side are two different groups. They talk to each other through a very thin pipe and very infrequently. You do not have an integrated capability where you can instrument your environment, both digital and voice journeys. You can analyze it. You can experiment and drive insight. And finally, you can intervene all on one platform. All on one platform. That gives you the ability to adjust, to navigate. You can do A/B testing. You can look at people getting digital responses, finding breakpoints in their journeys from digital into voice. You can immediately change that, for instance, by applying co-browse, by applying assisted chat, by applying navigational knowledge into the digital part of their journey. Those are the things you cannot do when you have separate islands of technology from analytics to operations. So this closed loop orchestration is an important element of the speed you need in your digital engagement. So let me take a pause here and switch to the second aspect of what I want to address, which is some examples of success. What success looks like when you are effectively operationalizing these customer engagement strategies. So I'll talk about 2 customers, and then I'll ask Bill to come in. Number 1, this is a customer of ours who's been with us for actually 3 years now. They engage their clients through proactive offers, self-service, assisted chats. And what we have seen with them, just to give you an example, happens to be Land's End, is they're able to drive very relevant offers, all in a matter of minutes, based on the business requirements, based on marketing campaigns, based on pricing strategies. And what you see here is these offers are overlaid on top of what their existing e-commerce and content systems are. These are not rip and replace tools. So they have existing e-commerce solutions, and on top of that, our offers engine can be layered just with a tag. Not just that, you can do it both from an sort of what I would call an explicit sort of intervention, as well as a very subtle implicit intervention. So what you see here is recognizing the time someone is spending on the checkout page, and particularly on the shopping in the checkout area around shipping and taxes. And if they spend more than 10 seconds on that in that box, then this pops up saying, find out how you can save on shipping by combining products. So the idea here is to have an ability to dynamically adjust the experience depending on the customer journey, the specific requirements of the visitor, and when the customer wants service, even when they're looking to get assistance, you can intercept it through self-service, and you can, in their case, answer over 40% of the queries just by intercepting the request with a dynamic knowledge capability, all within a common hub. To us, that's the power of digital engagement, and that's what the client is able to see. Another example I'll give you, which is different but equally powerful. This is Everything Everywhere, a telco out of UK. They were the largest telco. Now they're going to be part of a large organization as they're merging with another telco. We started out with them where the challenge they put in front of us was that they wanted to have all their agents on the phone and all their stores, all associates in the stores, use the same knowledge base, and the same self-service capability should be served up to their end customers. And now that's exactly what they do. When I discussed this with some analysts, not at Gartner, but other analysts, they were so incredulous, they challenged us, saying there's no way that 9,000 agents across different call types and different inquiry types can be handling all calls, regardless of their expertise. And we showed it to them. Turns out, it is in fact the case. Now, you can imagine the advantage of having that sort of flexibility and how quickly they can reorganize their business and their resources to address specific demands in the organization. Because it's a guided, knowledge-driven desktop where all the query types are listed on the front, the CRM information is on the right side, and through a process of interactive guidance, the customer gets the right answer. To us, that's the power of digital customer engagement. So with that, I'll just leave you with a simple thought, a lazy thought, which I think is a good one. I believe, and we see this more and more, that we imagine everything that's possible, we get excited about it, then we start to get a little cautious and we plan for what's probable, and when it comes right down to it, we tend to do what's easy. Now, with that note, I'll invite Bill Miller, a Vice President of CompuCom, to come share his thoughts. Bill?
Thanks. Thank you, Rashid. While we're setting that up, mental note to Bill. If you're going to follow Ashu in a presentation, I need just-in-time PowerPoint, okay? Because he's already presented about 3 or 4 or 5 things that I wanted to do. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is that I do want to assure you that Ashu and I, we developed our presentations in a total isolation chamber. I had no idea what the gentleman was about to share. I had a pretty good sense because of point number 3. When I walked in the room and I look out in the audience and I see my new friends here, 2 years ago, I was sitting there. I was where you were. And I thought if I had heard 2 years ago what I've heard from Ashu and my friends at eGain, I probably would have gotten here sooner. So you're late. You're a little late to the party, but I want to try to help. 2 years ago, CompuCom embarked upon an initiative to reinvent our entire service experience. And as the vice president of our portfolio around service experience management, it's the part of the business I call the romantic side of the business. It's not the digital side, and it's not the cloud side. It's the piece that deals with us. We embarked upon an initiative to go change the way we do things. I should have tested this. That probably didn't work. Did it? Yep, okay. I'm going to talk quickly. I'm going to just touch on a few insights from the customer's perspective. And I sit somewhat in a unique position, I believe, because I have the same challenges that you do and the same missions and the same objectives, and I've listened to and needed the counsel and the wisdom and the capability that a platform such as eGain would bring for us. I want to talk about, Ashu he kicked right off on his presentation and said, I'm going to tell you why this is important. Well, as a customer, I want to tell you why this was important to me. And I would imagine it's going to resonate with many of you. Then I'm going to quickly describe what was the problem I was actually trying to solve. Okay? What solution literally fixed that problem? Why was eGain the technology piece and the partnership piece that helped me bring that solution to the table? What have I done? And we're in flight. And what am I planning to do next? And then I added this slide and I told my friend and account partner, I'm going to put this on the slide because there's people going to be sitting in the room that was me 2 years ago that are on the scouting exposition and going, I've got to go back and report. You know, what do you think about this? And so for those of you that are in that position, I want to say, this is what you ought to tell your boss when you go back, okay? So I'm going to hit these real quick for time's sake. Ashu said some things. Let me tell you where CompuCom was and the message that I was listening to. Number one, I've spent 26 years in the IT outsourcing business around end-user services and end-user support and customer support. And I am absolutely convinced that number one, I spent most of my time on the trail of moments of truth, trying to get that monthly little blue star that said I hit the SLAs and all my numbers are green and my report looks great. And the funny thing about it is on Monday morning, my key didn't fit the customer's door anymore. And I go, how in the world did that happen? And that's because I lost sight of the fact it was a journey. It's a customer journey. I can fix a problem 100 times fast, but I had 100 problems. That's point number one. Point number two is what we've discovered in the last decade or so is that there's something going on here. And the emphasis is that customers, they vote with their feet and their wallets. They vote on what you deliver. They will go someplace and pay more if they will just, and cease to do business with a good brand, if they just experience a better end-user experience. And the third piece about it is that end-user experience, and this was key to me, is that becomes a differentiator, a stronger differentiator. Gartner made this quote 2 years ago. I've been living this for 2 years. customers will, this becomes the differentiator, how we deliver the digital experience that Ashu was talking about. A couple of other insights, I talk about the end user perspective. Every one of us in this room, I'm looking at the demographic here, we know the end user or the customer that we're servicing has changed. Every one of you could come up here and take the clicker from my hand and talk about the difference in our end users that we're supporting today. I call them undocked. The other word they use in the industry is mobile. Okay, they're undocked. They're undocked physically, emotionally, and technically. And where once upon a time the technology, we all used the message that technology was the enabler, I disagree. I say it's now bionic. And my litmus test for this was as I asked my 13-year-old daughter to hand me her smartphone for just 5 minutes. Wasn't going to look at it, wasn't going to check it, just let me hold it. 3 minutes, she began to sweat. Okay? We're not a whole lot different. When we can't get connected to the Internet of Things, we start having some sort of reaction to that. And then the preference becomes preference, and I'm going to accelerate some of this. What that actually means is, if I go someplace to do commerce, and I only have one way to do that, versus if I go to an alternate site, and I have multiple ways to engage with the vendor, I prefer that site where I have a preference because my preference changes. I happen to be someone, even at my age and my generation, that I do engage digitally versus picking up the phone. That's my preference now. So the last point I want to make on this particular slide, I'm going to skip forward, is this bridging the gap between corporate and home. Now, I've been in the IT outsourcing business for, as I said, 26 years. And I've developed solutions and supported clients, and I've probably got competitors and friends in this room right here. I'm sure I do. And you guys will know what I'm exactly talking about, okay? We provide a solution from 8 to 5 or 8 to 8 or 7 to 7. It's the corporate B2B type of experience. And so the end user, when they go to work and they punch the time clock, they know what they're going to expect and experience when they engage the support side of the business. And I am that support side of the business. But at the end of the day, they go home and they have a completely different, more consumer-oriented type of experience. And they know it's going to be more interactive, more agile, more engaging from a digital perspective. And then they got to go back to work. Part of our corporate collective challenge is to erase that line and to bridge what's happening internally and what's happening for the end user when they go home so that that one experience is the same. I'm going to move forward for just a minute. And I'm going to talk about why was this really important, okay? A decade ago, how we sold and how we delivered competitively was we had a bigger, faster, stronger, cheaper technology feature. My box was bigger, it was bluer, it was faster, it hummed, it made julienne fries, okay? And that's how we had to differentiate, or many of us had to differentiate the growth. But the present and the future, it's not about that technology. It's not about your feature function. It's about how was Bill's experience to get there and to buy it, to support it, to inquire of it, to return it, to use it. That whole end user experience piece is in fact that voting box. It's not the feature function piece. There are two missions, and I had these two missions. I won't tap that again, I hear that. Okay. I had two missions. Miller, you got to go figure out how to lower our overall costs so that we can be competitive. But at the same time, you got to go drive the end user experience up. Let me give you a clue. Go for the user experience first. Because what it does is drives customer loyalty and growth and win rates higher than just trying to be cheap. Okay? I'm going to talk about who we are. There's no commercial today about CompuCom, but let me just tell you something. Look at the scattergram on the left. Each one of those dots is one of 67 clients. And those 67 clients represent about 2/3 of what we support from a global service desk perspective. And it's charted on what was the volume of non-voice contacts, that's what we call chat and email and the digital engagement piece versus just picking up the telephone. And so what you see is I have 67 different accounts that they're all in different places in their experience around the digital engagement piece. Guess what? You're on that chart someplace. I'm absolutely confident because every one of those have got a different model or a different business model or a different need and a different culture and a different customer base. Now, I happen to be the test tube for all of you because I got one of each. Okay? The second chart shows, well then, if that's the volume distribution, the percentage of cases that are opened by non-voice ranges from, we have some clients that 80% of the transactions that come to us via non-voice. So we needed a platform to better manage that and to optimize our labor and to drive an enhanced end user experience. And I have others that they're evolving. They're on the bottom end of the curve. One of the points I wanted to emphasize is this, we've been in that business for quite some time. None of this was integrated into our call center and into our telephony infrastructure and our telephony capability. So I had groups of agents at this table taking phone calls, and agents sitting at this table handling chats, and agents at that table handling emails. Ashu was talking about one agent being able to support all those in that the client that you referenced. I needed a mechanism whereby I could say, let the contacts come in via the channels in the venues and distribute among the intelligence and the knowledge and the agents and their ability to handle any type of channel. So the digital engagement, the knowledge piece and the analytics piece and the personalization piece, paramount to what CompuCom was actually trying to do. Here's another. This is my real data. This is real interesting, and if you're in the evaluation piece, please listen to this. So the promise is, if we implement omni-channel, I'm going to be able to reduce phone calls. I'm going to be able to go build my business case in Microsoft Excel and go put it up in front of my investment council, and they're going to bless me and give me all this money. Let me tell you what. Month over month over month, for 13 consecutive months, my non-voice contact volume has risen. At the same time, my telephone volume has not dropped a bit. What does that tell us, though? That the latent demand out there in our customer base is waiting on the next generation preference to engage. There are those that are still going to call, but there is a volume, and it actually was about a 25% over that year increase in the non-voice contacts with no decline in my voice contacts. I would have been missing that had I not been able to implement a solution such as this. So I had all these different business models, all different types of profiles around the customer, some that were embracing digitalization, others that weren't. Okay. My solution and the strategy for CompuCom was building what I called the Mobius principle. Yes, it was an internal kind of buzzword for us, but basically what it said is, because CompuCom happens to be an IT product, services, and projects related delivery. So if our customer could get to my Mobius ring, so to speak, I wanted to be able to deliver all things CompuCom to them. But I didn't have a mechanism to do that. I had users asking from multiple devices and multiple venues, trying to get to our services. I needed a way to enable what I call trans-venue across the digital experience, a walk-up experience, and a remote contact center experience, and cross that with omni-channel so that I removed all the barriers for our customers to be able to get to us. And I needed to be able to deploy this quickly. And that's key. Why was eGain the solution for me? Number one was I spent significant, powerful time explaining to eGain what my problem was and why the Mobius for me is what I was trying to accomplish. They worked with me to understand my need and how their technology would meet that. Now, number two, we're a total Cisco shop. And so the native integration between eGain to Cisco across our whole engagement model from walk up to our call centers was key to us. The fact that they could bring me what I call core, email and chat, but then also the social, the co-browse, the click-to-call, the other features, the knowledge integration piece was huge to us. The offers piece that Ashu was talking about, I'm going to address in just a second. The unified omni-channel desktop, so across the nearly 1,600 agents that we have and the 80 some odd plus, or it's growing now, clients that we have, I needed the ability to have one agent be able to support more than 3 clients because it's all about scale. This has taken me down the roadmap so that I will be able to take agents and support scores of clients, if not all of them, okay? The preemptive knowledge push is huge to us. It's one of the reasons why we selected the eGain platform, because of its native integration piece. Ashu was talking about how, and I think he had an example of one of his clients that says, Sally Snowflake chats a question about returns, and before she even engages with an agent, the knowledge solutions are presented. Okay? We're implementing the same thing for us across our IT services and support piece. The integration to our self-service portals, which is one of the venues that we're talking to. Obviously, their position and recognition with Gartner as one of the leaders, if not the leader in the quadrant, was very significant for me. As a reminder, I was new to CompuCom, brought in to go do this service experience. I needed to make sure I was going to be successful. Okay? The rapid deployment and the guidance to the quick value piece, I'm going to talk to that explicitly in the next slide, but let me just simply say this. It took me longer to get the legal documents through CompuCom and through eGain. It took me longer to build the actual working SOW than it took me to go implement the technology. And that's more of an indictment on us than necessarily on you, okay? But nonetheless, it took me longer to get it legally through the system than it did to go implement the solutions. And I will say, and I'm picking on Reese a little bit, their account relationship, and I shared this with Ashu, that's been, as an organization that was committed to embark upon implementing a digital engagement strategy and reinventing this, I needed a relationship that I could count on that would challenge me as well as work with me. The first thing Reese McCrae shared with me, and I learned to repeat, was out of the box is my friend. Okay, because I thought I had to go build and create something unique for everything. No, the power's there to go do out of the box. So what have I done and what I'm going to do next? To begin with, the first thing we did in our approach was to take what I consider to be core eGain, which was simply the email and chat engines, and integrate them into my Cisco. And now our agents are sitting in our centers, and there is a unified agent desktop, an inbox on their desktop, so that if a phone call comes in, it queues, or an email comes in, and it queues, or chat comes in. And based upon your assignment and your prioritization, they're coming into the top of your list, or down in the bottom, or in the middle or the bottom of your list. So the integration to our Cisco was the first effort that we've done. All of our new implementations, we include the eGain core as a part of our solutions. We implemented 16 accounts out of that list of 67 in 6 months. And that included about a 6 weeks hiatus right in the middle of it where I was trying to work on a different internal initiative and just said, hold up, guys. So in a matter of 6 months, I brought 16 different business models and client experiences onto the eGain platform. And I have a roadmap to bring on the remaining of the organizations that I've actually passed that off to a deployment team. Because the extension is all of the full body features are still on my portfolio roadmap to implement. So I did core. I'm doing the integrations now into the knowledge pieces, into the ITSM platforms, and then I'm bringing on the other componentry of the eGain to bring the full end user experience up. And the advanced integrations into our digital engagement strategy, again, Ashu had no idea that I was going to be speaking to this. Our core strategy for us, to our clients, is to accelerate that digital engagement piece. And so eGain for me is not limited to just omni-channel. It's becoming a part of our knowledge, our persona management piece, our delivery model, if you would, our hybrid delivery model. And so, because I've only got a few minutes left for questions, so I want to get to the question. So, if you're in the room and you're interested in knowing what I'd say to you, if you've got to go back and report, this is what I had to do. I needed this to stay relevant in my place. That was the number one thing. When it was all boiled down to CompuCom, I needed the ability to embrace this digital engagement model across an omni-channel just to stay relevant. That didn't work. Okay. The second piece was to stay competitive. I didn't even have it in my proposals heretofore. Now every proposal goes out with the eGain solution embedded. I needed this to go match the end user expectations. So as you're talking to your sponsor, your boss, stay relevant, stay competitive, match the end user expectations, certainly to optimize my labor costs. And I've coined a phrase inside of CompuCom, omni-channel for us and eGain for us is what I call job 2. For those of you that know anything about Texas Hold'em, and by the way, I'm not from San Diego, I am from Louisiana, Texas, okay? That's jacks are better to open, okay? Without this, I wasn't even in the game. So, Ashu, I thank you for an opportunity. My friends, my new friends here, I will be glad to take any questions. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I'll take whatever you want or direct it at Ashu. Anyone? Yes, sir.
So the slide where your non-voice lines raise the same rate as your voice lines, it's here for my OpEx savings, my business case. Do you see transition of people doing both the voice and non-voice? Do you have those capabilities? And how about your handle?
Actually, the voice handle times matches what we've been reading now for about 5 years. The voice handle times have actually gone up because what's happening is some of the easier questions are being presented to me via the non-voice channels. The easier and the more non-urgent, if I can use it like that, they're submitting those via chat and says, get back to me when you can. So that's the answer to the second half of the question. The chart actually, the two curves were both around the non-voice contact. It wasn't a growth to the phone. It has stayed basically flat, okay? I'm just simply saying I've opened the cage, and now when I would not have picked up the phone to call 2 continents over to get a question answered, I don't mind opening up at that chat window now. That was bad on my part. Another question. You're welcome to corner me. Yes, ma'am. Well, the way we're implementing click to call with eGain on our self-service portal, okay, which we're reinventing as well. Today, I don't have the ability for the user to go to the self-service point and say, call me. Click to call is going to be, I want to get in the queue for the service desk to call me back. That's how we're implementing it. It's how it was designed for us. And by the way, I'm really excited about that. And the clients that I'm working with, they're really excited about that piece because of the change in the way their end users go, well, I need to talk to you, but I'm not going to be here for the next half hour. Can you call me back at this time? So, next question. This clock says 0. I thank you all for listening and being here today. Thank you, Ashu.
Thank you, Bill. Great job.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you.
I think we're done.